Welcome to Spill the Tea with Josephine. Today we're talking to Diane Bator, coach, editor, and author extraordinaire. Thank you for coming to watch Spill the Tea with me and Diane. And Diane, how do you say your last name?
Bator.
Bator. Okay, I wanted to make sure I got that right. Diane Bator. She's a fellow author and a mystery writer. And I believe you're from Canada, aren't you?
I am, despite the
Sweet.
background, which I have this plain white wall that makes me look like some kind of an escapee. But I put this beautiful thing up. Yeah, I'm in southern Alberta.
Oh,
I
okay.
just moved here from southern Ontario last year. So,
I'm from Southern Ontario.
are ya?
Yes. I
No,
don't get to talk to Canadians often on here.
oh yeah, right. No, I was born and raised in Alberta. I lived in Ontario for about 18 years, and now I came back to Alberta and be closer to family and stuff. So
Sweet.
yeah.
I was gonna say, how's the weather right now?
Actually, this weekend is gorgeous.
Oh, nice.
They were supposed to get snow again, so and a lot of snow apparently. So
Which is Canada.
wait a minute, it'll change. So
Yep, exactly. So you write mystery novels. Now, do you write a specific kind of mystery novel? Are they cozy mysteries? Are they more in-depth, dramatic mysteries? What are they about?
they're mostly cozy mysteries. And for anybody who doesn't know, cozy mystery just means the murder does not happen in the description of the book. The sleuth is usually an amateur detective of some sort, and it's normally based in a small town, but there's been a lot of variations. So, you know, the rules are always going out the window a little bit, but mine are usually small town. So far, mostly I have female protagonists. I do have my Wild Blue Mysteries have some male protagonists in there, but they're always working as a team.
Hmm. Now, I did see, like you're talking about, I believe you just said your Wildwood ones.
Mhm.
Um, the the cover on them, it reminds me of the Craig Johnson Longmire series. Are they kind of similar to that?
I don't think so.
No, eh?
They're they kind of walk the line between cozy and actual mystery. So
Hmm.
there's yeah, they are more on the cozy side, but they kind of walk this little line that sometimes they cross, but not a lot. So
That's still pretty cool.
yeah, no, I had that was my very first series, and I'm in the process right now. I don't remember if I told you very much, but after 10 years, I left my publisher.
Hmm.
And I'm in the process right now of redoing all of my book covers and re-editing everything and relaunching everything. So my next 3 years are going to be really busy because there's books to do. I
We have a full schedule.
have a very full, I just had my little schedule out here and I'm like, yeah, oh, you can't see it there, but
Oh,
yeah,
that is a lot of little tiny writing on there.
little tiny writing a lot of books. So,
So how long have you been an author?
um, I think I've been writing my whole life. Published wise, I think my first one came out in 2013. And I had a novella come out before that because I actually won a little mystery contest and they published my little novella. So that got me going, hey, I can write mysteries. This is kind of fun. And I've always loved puzzles and mysteries. So that was just perfect.
Have you always wanted to be a writer?
Forever and ever. I
So
know I'm one
that's
of those.
definitely the passion then.
Yeah, absolutely. So after everything with my publisher and everything, I'm like, there's no way I can't keep going. It's like breathing for me, right? If I
Mhm.
don't write, then I kind of start going squirrely. And if I'm acting really weird and getting all funky, I'm like, okay, I need to go sit and write somewhere. And then I'll behave. Then I'll be good again.
So what made you decide to go from being with traditional publish to publishing yourself, being an indie author?
There was a lot of little things, and it just kind of built up over the years. And then I actually had the opportunity to work in person with them last summer, and I learned a lot of things that I just went, you know, I think I could do this. And I did learn a lot just sitting and watching and listening, and I have notes and notes and notes. I also have a lot of friends who have been self-published for a long time.
Mhm.
So when I made the decision, this is what I wanted to do, because things literally fell apart. And I told the publisher at that point, I'm like, I just need to rethink some things, and I'll get back to you, right? And come January, I sent them my notice, and I said, when my contract ends at the end of April, I'm gonna walk away and take my books and I'll start over. And all of a sudden I was released at the end of January and went, okay, that works. So that's why this one already came out in March, and it's called Written in Stone, and it's
Mhm.
my first self-published one, and it's never been published before. So that kind of made it even more special.
New materials for your readers. Very
Yeah,
nice. So
absolutely.
why don't you tell us what the book is about?
The book is about Alison Cadell, who is a budding romance novelist who does not like mysteries of any way, shape, or form, but brought into one. And her mystery, at the beginning of the book, you find out that Alison has thought her father was dead for the last 20 years. Turns out he's still alive, and her mother is kind of on the run from him. So she has an opportunity through some other means to go to where he was last seen, and ends up trying to track him down, finds a whole family she never knew existed,
Oh, wow.
and starts to learn about her past and why she can't remember any of this.
Interesting. And I
Mhm.
see that the book is also set in Canada. Is there a reason why you chose that?
That was a whole long journey in itself. Um, it started off, I think I started off basing it in Washington State, because way back when I first started, I was told if you want to get into the US market, you have to write in US set places, and I was like, okay. So I did that. And a lot of my series, you'll see that they're set in the US, but they are close to the Canadian border. So a couple of them, I'm like, well, maybe they'll like make the leap when I redo them. But they just have to go across a lake, basically. Um, but then as I spent time along the shores of one of the Great Lakes, I'm like, this would be an amazing setting.
Mm-hmm.
So I rewrote, kind of did the edit and moved the location. And I had the opportunity to pitch the book to an acquisitions editor for a publisher in the States. And I asked her about setting, and she goes, oh, no, us Americans were really stupid, and we would love to read stuff that takes place in our own backyard. And I just went, I have a lot of American readers, and they don't think that way. So I kind of started to change it. And then I just sat back and went, I'm not comfortable with the setting. I'm not comfortable with that whole attitude, right? And I never did send it to her.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I moved across Canada, which was a whole other adventure, driving across Canada with a carload of your belongings and 2 cats, do not recommend it. It was fun though. We had a rodeo in a parking lot, the whole bit. So it was a lot of fun.
It's a big country.
It took me 2.5 days to get out of Ontario. It was
Yep,
just, but the scenery, oh my gosh, if you ever get the opportunity, it's gorgeous,
it
gorgeous.
is.
Um, but once I got settled here and I decided that I'm going to do my own books, my own publishing, my own stuff, I went back to this book and said, you know what, I'm going to move it. I moved it to Vancouver Island. So Allison starts out living in Toronto and gets the opportunity to go to Vancouver Island, where she is like totally a duck out of water. She's just kind of like, this is, I see these kind of guys on the street and they're scary guys, but these
Mm-hmm.
guys here, it works for them, right? And so she develops this whole new life out there, and she's only been there like a week before all of this. She's only been there a day before everything blows up, but by the end of the week, she's kind of figuring out why everything seems familiar, and what has happened to her. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to move it into Canada. And I have friends that live on the island, so they were a great help with, wait a minute, you can't do this. I was like, okay, thank you. And someday I'll get out there to actually see the area. So
Yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit more about your main character? Is she like college age? Does she have a job? Why did she go to the island?
Allison, I think I pegged her at around, early 20s. She's still kind of trying to come into her own. She wants to be a writer. She's stuck working in a candy store. And there's a couple of scenes with her in the candy store with her boss, who is like, okay, you need to be here. You need to not miss days. You need to, she's like, I missed one day. I'm like, leave me alone. And the day that she finally gets to go, you know what? I quit, and throws her
Mm.
little pink apron on the counter and walks out. And she's just like, oh boy, was that stupid? What am I doing? But it's actually her roommate who convinces her and says, if this was one of your characters in your book, what would she do? Would she go to
Mm.
Vancouver and take this opportunity?
That's a great
Would
question.
she just sit there and go, yeah, no, I'm just going to stay home? And Allison
Oh, I think we froze.
finally realizes it shouldn't be as strong and as interesting as one of her heroines. So
That's cool. I like that question because if you even applied it to yourself in real life, like what would my characters do? I think that gives an extra,
right?
like boost of confidence to go out and do something. That's cool. That's cool.
Well,
I
and
like
that's
that
what
question.
Allison says to her. Well, if my character just stayed home and did nothing, she'd be really boring and nobody would
Yeah,
read my books. So,
very, very true. So is this going to be like a standalone book or are you writing a series for Allison?
so far I have a 3-book series planned for
Oh,
it.
nice.
So there's things that have happened in book 1. The next book, her sister and her roommate are going to come out and help her out because she's got a major catastrophe on her hands
Oh.
coming up. And then there will be for sure one more book after that. And I haven't quite settled on the storyline, but it will be something, as usual, kind of explosive around her because, nothing's ever just calm and orderly. So there will be one more for sure. And then we'll see what happens with after that.
Hmm. And how many books in total have you written that you've published?
Yeah, that was number 16. So written
Oh,
in
wow.
number 16. And what I'm doing over the next 3 years for sure is this year I'm redoing all of the book 1s from all of the series. So if
Mhm.
if nobody's read some of them, this is your opportunity. They will be fresh and new. And so this year is book 1s, next year is book 2s, then book 3s. So I've got a lot of work ahead, but it's all stuff that I am loving. The cover for this one, I actually did on my own, which I was like, okay, can I really do this? And
Mhm.
I've had a lot of great feedback about it.
Oh,
So
good.
yeah, people were just like, what do you mean you did your own cover? Really? It's like, oh, good. So I hope I can keep that energy up.
Speaking of being very busy, I see by your website that you also offer coaching and editing and other services.
I do. I haven't done a great deal the last couple of years because things have been super busy. And this next couple of years, I'm not sure. But anybody can reach out and I always tell people, if you're interested in the coaching, send me 10 pages of your book and I'll show you what I do. You don't like it, you don't have to hire me.
Hmm.
You'll have those 10 pages you can take and do whatever with.
That's a good
But
way of doing it. Yeah.
yeah, well, I mean, like I said, I've been doing this. I've been working with publishers and editors and everything for probably about 12 years now. So I've learned a lot. And I had somebody say the other day, well, you shouldn't hire shouldn't hire an editor unless they've worked with a big 5 publisher. And I'm like, not everybody can do
Um,
that. Those guys are
I,
expensive.
I was gonna say, I don't think I can afford one of those.
No, and I don't even know anybody that would do that or that has that background, right?
Hmm.
A lot of my I keep saying publishers, a lot of my editors have been really good friends who have learned everything the way I have. We've all learned the hard way, or some of them have English teacher backgrounds or, you know, that kind of thing but we've all been doing this a very long time and we've learned a lot of tricks. So
That's very true. And if you were to say something to an aspiring mystery writer, what would it be to encourage them?
write what you want to read. And I say that a lot because people try to write to market. The
Hmm.
market is volatile. It changes constantly. You might see vampire books everywhere, and then next week vampires are out. And all of a sudden everybody's into werewolves or, that sort of thing. Write what you want to read. Whatever you want to read, chances are somebody else wants to read it too.
That's good advice. That's very good advice. Other than, that way you're not chasing trends that might be on the tail end of it, right?
Exactly. By the time people don't realize, I mean, you can write a book very quickly, but once you go through the editing process, you get the
Mm.
covers, it does take a long time.
Takes a very long
This book that
time.
I just did seemed to take a short time, but I've had it written for 4 years. So it's been sitting in a drawer. All I had to do was edit and do the covers and and it still took like 3 or 4 months.
Wow. So, then you wouldn't necessarily say that you're a prolific writer per se. Like how long does it take you to write a book about
It
me?
just depends. I've written books in a month,
Hmm.
through NaNoWriMo. I've, I write them, you go through and do an edit because writing them in a month, they don't make sense sometimes. And especially writing mystery, a lot of the times you will have to go back and put in some red herrings, put in some
Hmm.
clues, that sort of thing.
Make sure everything lines up.
Exactly. I'm not one of those people that sits and plots every little detail. And if you are, that's great. That works great for you. I'm one of these people that just sits down. I have an idea in my head. Um, I just started working with a small press called Aconite Cafe, and they do all these little cozy mystery anthologies. And I love it because 10,000 words max. My very first one, I sat down and I hand wrote in 3 days because I was just completely absorbed with this story. And now I have this great character. I have 4 stories based around her now. So once I get my rights back for those, which I think it's after 3 to 6 months, I can't remember exactly, then I can start doing those stories on my own and
Hmm.
make my own little collection of stories about Dash Allman because she's just a blast. She's one of those characters that just kind of says and does what she feels like saying and doing. And yeah, sometimes it works out for the best. Sometimes she gets into some serious trouble, but she has a
As
lot of fun.
characters are wont to do.
Absolutely. They just kind of wander off. And currently, this story, the next story I'm writing, she is hiding out under a parade float. So
Oh, well, that's interesting because immediately you're like, why? Why is she doing that?
exactly, right? What on earth are you doing under there? Yeah, they are fun.
I always say, with my characters, I tr get them in trouble and then I times it by 3. I'm like,
Hmm.
what's the worst thing I can do to them? And then I'm going to make it worse three
Yeah,
times and then see how they're going to get themselves out of it.
get out of that now. Ha. And that's the thing, like so many people get into this, oh, I've got writer's block, I've got whatever. And it's like just throw an obstacle at your character.
Hmm.
And it never fails. Like particularly with these Dash stories, it's like, okay, they're a short story. So you have to tell the story within 10,000 words.
Which is hard.
It is very hard, but at the same time, like I said, I have so much fun with these silly things. And for whatever reason, she's under a parade float this time. So, things just pop up and happen. Like, how are you going to get out from there? Because there's bad guys over there, right? So,
So are you going to keep her series at the 10,000 word mark or are you going to expand it once you have the rights back?
I think what I'm going to do is just keep them as the little short story mysteries
Mhm.
and then just do a collection.
Okay, that's a good
So
way of
as
doing
I
it.
get
Yeah,
3 or 4 of them, I'll just make a little collection and put it out, and then people can just have her story.
that's cool. That's a good idea. I like that. So what's your favorite thing about being an author? I know, big
It's,
question. Good question.
I know, right?
One which is usually hard to answer for people.
Oh no, I think my favorite part is just Number one is escaping my own world. And number two, I'm sorry, got a tickle in my throat right now. Number two is just creating a whole world that I can do whatever I want with. Things can be good, things can be bad, things can go sideways really fast. And I can just let my imagination go.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, if things get boring, you throw in an obstacle. Okay, get past that one. Somebody loses their life savings. How are you going to rebuild your life? How are you going to do this? Sorry, my goodness. Actually, I'm working on, because there's always so much time in your day. I'm working on a little romance series as well. And
Okay.
it's probably going to be more like a series of novellas, because I'm trying not to go totally crazy. But it's based on a mom who is recently widowed, and then her children, and all of them kind of finding their way in the world, and they're all kind of finding their way back to each other, as well as, and it is romance. So there's going to be, other people drifting in and out of their lives. And it kind of, I started this years and years ago with a couple of characters, two brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I didn't like where it was going. So I just kind of shelved it. And when I moved across from Ontario last year, I had this brainstorm, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this based around this family. Book one is the oldest sister is moving back, and she kind of goes through some of the things I went through without the rodeo in the parking lot. But I might add that in still.
Could be a fun comedy
Right?
moment. Yeah.
Well, what happened? I have this very large cat. She's 22 pounds, and her kitty carrier broke as I took it out of the car. And thank goodness the parking lot was very quiet, because she was under vehicles, and oh my goodness.
Oh,
I talk about stress and did not
yeah.
need it.
Poor
But it was
cat.
a lot of fun at the end, which is like, okay, she got a whole new character with a whole new carrier with a sunroof. She was great the rest of the trip. She was just like, I love this. But yeah, book one starts out with this lady leaving Toronto, driving across Canada, and going back to her family. So
Well, we'll look forward to seeing that and learning more about it as they're released. Maybe when they are released, maybe you can come on again and tell us about them.
absolutely, I would love that.
That's awesome. Okay, so your book, Written in Stone, it's just been released this March. So we'll have to put the links in the description of this video, so anybody who's interested can go over and view it and see if they'd like to purchase it. And so you've released wide, haven't you? I do believe.
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
anywhere you can buy ebooks, you can get print. It's just, that's the way I've always published, and that's kind of where, what audience I do have, that's where they find my books on all different platforms. So I'm like, I'm just gonna stick with that. And it was a lot easier than I expected, which was great. So, it's nice to have some things going really smoothly.
yeah.
So it doesn't always happen.
So even if you got an e-reader or Kobo, or if you like to read on your computer or order the print version, any copy you can go find on there. And I'll also put the link to your website, so anybody who wants to view that can. And do you have any last words for us?
I was just gonna say, my website is being updated constantly right now, so there's always going to be fresh new things up there, including this interview. Um, and we kind of talked about advice to writers and stuff. Just do what you love. If you love to write, don't do it for the money, don't do it for glory, just write and put your work out there, because there will always be somebody who would read it,
That's
and you could
awesome.
affect somebody's life in a big way.
That is a wonderful thing to say. Well, thank you so much, Diane, for coming on this interview. I really appreciate your time.
Really appreciate it.